Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi-Thorian Alliance. In today's video, we'll be talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, Episode 2, and also to help me talk about the episode is Luke. Thank you for joining me again to talk about this episode. And
No worries. No worries.
what was your thoughts about the episode?
Yeah, it was really good. I thought the show's it's building quite nicely. It hasn't given away too much yet. We're finding out a little bit more each episode, but you can see that it's going to really wait into that 4 episode mark, I reckon, before we get hit with the twist in the show, and then the last 2 episodes will conclude, kind of like what they did with WandaVision. But it's building really nicely. It's so far, if this was a movie, I reckon I'd like it. Like, I would have been skeptical about seeing a movie with these two main characters, but I would have been good and it's been good as a show.
Yeah. So it actually starts off with the character that the episode kind of ended on, with John Walker, the new Captain America at his high school, I believe.
Yeah, so we were both wondering. I think most people that watched the trailer would have thought, who is this character? And then the end of the first episode, they introduced that it's a new Captain America, and I was skeptical about it. And then we finally see the scene where you see a Captain America running out onto a football field, which it turns out it was just like a celebration they put on for him at his old high school, and he gets interviewed by like a morning TV show.
Yeah.
And then we find out a few things about him. What were some of the things we found out about him in that interview?
Well, we found out that he's not a nobody. He's actually served in the military and free tours. He's gotten the Medal of Honor 3 times. He has a girlfriend, I believe. She wasn't really introduced properly. It was kind of weird.
That way.
It was kind of weird, that scene. It's like they didn't really do that scene properly. And then when she was leaving, it's like, your turn, and then his friend was like, I was born ready. Yeah,
it kind of gave us a bit more insight to him and a bit more faith that he could be Captain America and take over the reins. And then that showed some footage of him training and throwing the shield, and he was pretty talented at it. So guess we'll find out a bit more about how he goes as that. And I don't know if you did, but I found myself Googling his name and seeing if he was part of the Marvel franchise. And apparently in the comic books, this character, John Walker, is another alias for Captain America. And I'm not sure why in the comic books, whether it was because of the same reason in Endgame that Captain died, or whether it's like an alternate universe, but he is not unknown to the MC universe. So I guess people that read the comic books probably would expect this character.
And also, while the speech is happening, Bucky is watching his interview and not pleased with it at all.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping watching that Bucky maybe would have been alright with it. Like, watching, thought, okay, this guy's served, he's done these things, he's not a nobody. But it seems like Bucky's angry with whoever takes the shield. But it's not this guy's fault that they didn't decide to retire the shield. They wanted to feel the need to pass it on to someone else. So
yeah, it's that American, honor, favoritism, that passion that someone always has to have the mantle.
Yeah. And then what follows that scene, I think we finally get to see the two main characters meet each other for the first time.
Yeah, did you like how they first meet? It was kind of Bucky harassing Sam, like, oh, did you know that was going to happen? And Sam's like, I got some bigger things to think about. And then Bucky's like, oh, what could be more of a big deal than someone else having the shield? And then they have that conversation about the big 3.
Yeah, I thought that their first meeting would have been a bit more exciting, like one rescued the other. but he literally just showed up at this military base and happened to know Falcon was going to be there, and he was leaving.
And he was
on a
allowed
mission.
to get in so easily.
Yeah, you wonder, because they talk about being freelance and not working for the government, yet they get access to really like secret government areas. So I don't know. So, but yeah, it was a good scene, and then they make reference to the big three, which they said they were like aliens,
Wizards,
androids, and wizards. And I said to you, I reckon that in WandaVision, that somewhere in this show there'll be references to WandaVision, and I wonder if that's the first reference mentioning wizards, because he kind of laughed and said, "Oh, what, like Gandalf?" You know? And I think
I read The Hobbit.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of the first joke about the fact that in WandaVision there is a witch, and most people, besides Scarlet Witch, I don't think you expected there to be an actual witch that didn't get her powers through like a stone or some kind of weird experiment, like an actual genuine witch that, I don't know, they tried to burn at the stake and didn't die. And so yeah, it was funny. I think it would have been funny. It wouldn't have been as funny if Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out first, because you would have been like, okay. But now that we've seen it, kind of makes it funny. It's like, no, there is witches. They do mention witches and wizards now.
Yeah, and then we get the plane scene.
Yeah, so what happens in that?
Well, Bucky's like, do you have a plan? Steve always had a plan, and then it kind of went for comic reasons, and then Sam flew off, and then Bucky's to the helper, is there any parachutes? And then he just winged it.
Yeah, he asked if there was a parachute, and the guy goes, "Oh, no. We're too close to the ground, you can't use it." And he goes,
"I'll just do it."
Yeah, I'll be fine. He just literally jumps out the plane. I was kind of expecting him to grab a tree or something, but he just hit the ground hard and didn't.
Like Tarzan or something.
Yeah, it didn't hurt him. I just thought with his arm, he would have grabbed some branches along the way to slow him down, but it just hits the ground, he's fine. So I guess Bucky's extremely strong or somewhat invincible, I don't know.
And then Nightwing, Sam's, the Falcon's AI finds him, and then Bucky wants to hurt it, and then they meet up together, and then they have this. Bucky kind of runs quickly to this situation, and Bucky's surprised that Falcon caught up.
Yeah, and they find some kind of warehouse where these flag smashers are, and Sam's like, "Oh, well, we'll just infiltrate."
There's two of them.
Yeah, we'll just infiltrate them and we'll see what they're doing. And Bucky's like, "No, we'll take them." And then then they decide to initiate this or follow them. And then Bucky then breaks into the back of this van, and he thinks he's going to save this little girl they think's a hostage. And then we're a bit surprised by her. What do we find out about that character?
That she's actually a super soldier.
Yeah, she has this real evil laugh about her, and she takes on Bucky and
puts on the mask.
Yeah, and I guess that's where we see in the trailer the kind of scene where Bucky's hanging off the truck.
Yeah.
And Sam's laughing, going, "Oh, you got beaten up by a little girl."
Yeah.
And now we know where that scene comes from. And then we find out that those people they're fighting with the mask are super soldiers, which explains in the previous episode where there was the person that robbed the bank that put the mask on, how we thought that maybe they were some kind of super villain, but maybe they're just a generic super soldier that's part of these group. And then we get surprised by the new
Captain America shows up.
Yeah, and what happens there?
I believe he was tracing Falcon's AI companion, and he does a decent job, but with his shield, and then unfortunately, because his friend goes off on the road, he throws the shield on the road, and then they kind of all get their bums kicked.
Yeah, the new Captain America was surprisingly
decent.
He wasn't bad at fighting, but then without his shield, he's got nothing. He's fast and somewhat strong, but can't compete with the big three. He's not going to be able to fight them. So we see a little bit into them, and then what happens though? Bucky's hanging off, and then Falcon saves him, and then they kind of fall into this field of grass on the side of the road, and then they let the fight continue to go on, and then they're walking opposed to flying. I guess we can just assume that Sam's suit broke or something. Like, why would
Yeah.
they not fly? Then they're walking, and then you see Captain America and his mate pick them up in their car, and they kind of a bit of back and forward banter at each other. And
Bucky doesn't like him. He's like,
No.
you're not Captain America. And then John Walker says, I'm not trying to be. And then Bucky doesn't like him.
Yeah, and then I think he's at the end of the scene, and they decide that Bucky and Sam are going to go to Baltimore because Bucky knows of someone that might have some answers to this super soldier.
Bucky knows someone named Isaiah.
Yeah, that they might have some answers to this super soldier thing, which then they go to Baltimore in America to see him.
And then we see the super soldier group go to this random person's house and offers them food.
Yeah, I think it might be some kind of hostel, and then this person's kind of like, oh, we see about you guys on the news, and we see everything you're doing great, like we'll do anything for you. So they seem to be gathering a bit of a cult following, these flag smashers.
Yeah. And do you like their motives or their reason? Basically, their goal is in their minds, basically when the blip happened, like that 5 years was like a perfect time. Basically, in their minds, it was perfect. And then when people came back, in their minds, the government like didn't care about them or something.
Yeah, hopefully we'll find out a bit more about them. But I think as well there was someone else that was after them as well. The flag smashers, like there was like another person
in that plane scene.
Yeah, there's someone that wanted them as well. So I don't know if they're like a rebel group that's part of a bigger group. So like, it's something we're going to find out a bit more about. I guess we'll also find out how they got their super strength, and then I think Bucky makes reference to probably being Hydra. In some way Hydra's involved with this. And so then we get then they're trying to erase on the computer any footage of where they've been because they don't want to get tracked. And then we see this Baltimore scene, so then they go to see Isaiah, and who's he?
He was apparently a super soldier that was sent to kill Bucky, and he did a pretty good job. He was saying he actually took off his arm, but it just grew back, and he was saying that his government, the American government, put him in prison instead of giving him a pardon because of his colour. Yeah,
and then I think it's kind of Marvel's attempt at mentioning like the racism that goes on in the world, particularly America, because then they mention about him being not decorated as a hero because of the colour of his skin, being imprisoned, and then we see a scene where Bucky and Sam go outside and they're arguing, and the cops show up and they're like, oh, you're right, to Bucky being the white gentleman, and then accusing the black guy, Sam, of being harassing him and like wanting to like pull the gun on him and arrest him, and then until they realise who he is. And it just shows that I don't know if it's like that in America, but it's trying to make a point that racism is a big deal, and that sometimes being a person of colour, you get targeted and not celebrated in the same way that you would if you had white skin.
And then Bucky gets arrested because he didn't go to his therapy session.
Yeah. And then what's the next scene that we face from there?
Basically, Bucky gets let go, or his bail, and then Sam asks the therapist, was it you? And then we realise it was John Walker, the new Captain America, and then I guess you think, oh, okay.
Yeah, he kind of, they ask like, oh, who okayed this? And then he's like, oh, me. Like, so it kind of makes it, he's got all this power and he can make things happen.
But he's a captain though, like, generals are higher ranking than captain.
Yeah.
It's his it's the shield, and it's what it stands for, all that.
And then they talk about his condition of his bail. He needs to then do he needs to get cleared for battle by the therapist, and then for some reason that means that Sam needs to be included in therapy, which wouldn't be the case, but for the sake of the show they add it.
It was a pretty cool scene.
Yeah, we finally see the scene where they have their staring contest.
Like this?
Yeah, and they're like staring at each other, and they're like trying to... Oh, I don't know. I guess it was a funny scene. What does it add to the show?
Well, we got the conversation why Bucky feels way he feels about Sam giving up the shield, but we finally get the scene when Sam was saying you and Steve Rogers wouldn't understand about giving up the shield. What was a good Sam?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting listening to the counselor talk. She mentioned this idea about the miracle question, which my background, I'm a counsellor, so I actually everything she said makes sense. Like that's actually actual things they use in counselling. So it was not a nice touch that they actually did some research and added in what would actually happen in a therapy, like a couples therapy session, because that's really kind of what she was doing there. So I thought that was a nice touch. I haven't seen that mentioned in a show before, and that comes to almost the end of the episode there, and.
Well, what happens is Sam kind of gets frustrated and then leaves, and then Bucky stays for a little bit, and then they go outside, and then we get the scene when John Walker kind of offers, we should work together, we'll be stronger as a team, and then Sam and Bucky kind of go, we're freelancers, we would actually work better together, you have to answer to the government. Well, it's kind of true.
Yeah, but you think even though they're freelancers, they would still have to answer to the government in some way. They just can't go killing people, like they're breaking laws. So I don't really get what they mean by that. And
then Bucky talks about, it seems like this has to do with Hydra. We know someone to do with Hydra, and then we get the name mentioned, Zemo.
Yeah, so we'll finally get to see Zemo, I'd imagine, in the next episode, and whether he's involved in the Flag Smashers or he knows a bit about them, we'll soon find out. But you'd have to think so, because what would be the point of adding him to the show if he isn't an important character?
Yeah, and I guess, do you think they'll do the same thing like with episode 1? They end with a character and they start with Zemo?
Yeah, possibly. I guess through the 2 episodes we've seen that so far, but whether that's a coincidence or it's going to be an ongoing theme, I'm not sure. I have a feeling maybe we might be introduced to, is it Agent Carter? Like she might start the next episode, because we know that she's in it from the trailers, but she hasn't been featured yet, so maybe she might become the main focus of episode 3.
Do you like how the episode ends not with cliffhangers, more this character's been introduced, so look forward to it next time, folks?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't think they could have too many cliffhangers in it, because the way I see it, it's just a really long movie. And a movie can't have too many cliffhangers. So I think we might get a cliffhanger at some point, but there might just be one cliffhanger. You couldn't do it every episode.
Yeah.
So overall, what do you think? Comparing it to the first episode, or is that too harsh to compare 2 episodes?
I thought the action was pretty well done. Like that scene between the 2 vehicles was pretty cool. I guess they might do like with Bucky's lists and with Sam's trying to start the business. I guess that might be a ongoing theme, but it wasn't in this episode.
Yeah, I think they might be the underarching themes of the show. So, do you think it's going to be building towards something that's going to add to future movies? Like, do you think there's going to be something in this that's going to tie into Doctor Strange 2, or do you think WandaVision was the show that did that?
I think WandaVision. This might tie into something else, I guess. Maybe Armor Wars or something.
It might have some kind of ties to Black Widow as well. Like maybe we might find out that the Flag Smashers have a long origin, and then maybe somehow Black Widow's tied to that. Like in her film, she might fight some of the villains that are involved in this Flag Smashers. But it hasn't quite given it away yet how it's tied into. I think it has given a good backstory so far to... Well, I guess we've got 3 main characters of the 3 characters of the MCU team now. So we find a bit more about Falcon, a bit more about Bucky. Oh, we don't find out more about Bucky's past, but we find out more about Bucky moving forward. But then this new character, the new Captain America, like I guess I'd have to read the comic book to find out more about him. But
Mm.
whether he will now feature in the future movies going forward as Captain America,
Guess we'll see.
like that might be their plan, so that Captain America is not non-existent. It's just not the same person anymore.
Mm. So you looking forward to the next episode?
Yeah, very much so. I think I feel like the next episode might be a slow episode. I think we kind of got build up, and then the second episode was action. I reckon this is going to be another like a slow resetting episode where we might get a bit more backstory and maybe no action, and then that will then set the scene for the last 3 episodes. So I could be wrong. That's just what I think.
And do you think Zemo will help the Flag Smashers, or how do you see him tying into the story?
Not sure yet. I don't know if they're going to play him off as a bad guy that's gone good and tries to help them, or whether he is tied into the Flag Smashers and they find some way of breaking him out of prison. I'm thinking it's the second option, that they're going to somehow be tied into helping him escape. But I'm not sure. What do you think?
I don't know, because in his speech in the tray he said a world without superheroes is a good one. So,
which is interesting because his intention seems to be different than the Flag Smashers.
Yeah,
like they seem to want to take down the government and this idea of one world, one people.
Yeah.
But then Zemo seems to be against superheroes.
Yeah, and he was playing a chess game, so he's quite smart and calculated.
Yeah, like he may not like the Flag Smashers because they are in somewhat superheroes. Think about it, they have powers. So you'd think he would be against them because his hatred is not against superheroes because they do good things and he wants to do bad things. His hatred is because they have powers that are reckless and cause damage and can kill loved ones of innocent people. So maybe he is against the Flag Smashers because in their endeavours to try and do whatever they're trying to do, they could harm a lot of innocent people.
And we don't know what they're trying to do with what was in those containers, or what their ultimate goal is. They were talking about like, this is your last chance to back out. We're going to plan something, and this is like our last chance to back out of something.
Yeah, I'm wondering if whether they've got vials of stuff that makes people super soldiers, like whether it's like the stuff they put in Captain America, and their aim is to try and give more people super strength. That's a possibility, but I guess we don't know.
And were you on the team that were you relating to Bucky with not liking the new Captain America, or did you think Bucky was a jerk and you were kind of like, oh, see how the new Captain America goes and see what side you can
At first I thought, who is this guy? Why would he be given the shield? And then I kind of came around to it. I still don't think he can be a good Captain America, but he's not a bad soldier. But you got to think, I guess in Marvel, not everyone has super strength or great powers. Like Black Widow, she's literally just a spy that's quite acrobatic, but she somehow fights aliens. And then so it's not uncommon. So yeah, I guess they might write it in and he'll be okay. So I actually quite like him. I came around to liking him. What's your opinion?
I thought Bucky was a bit harsh at first, but he's friends with Steve Rogers, so to him, who Steve Rogers chooses is Captain America, so not the government, so it's all perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, thought overall it was a good episode. Be interesting to see if like I said, if the episode starts with Zemo, or be interesting to see. And we only got 4 episodes to go, so
yeah, it's building nicely and it's going quite quick. So yeah, it's lots to look forward to.
Are you enjoying the tone of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or One Division?
Oh, I think this is more enjoyable and more likable for a lot of people, but WandaVision builds really well for future MCU movies. So it's an important show, but it's maybe not going to be as good as Falcon the Winter Soldier. But that's not uncommon for movie franchises to add in a movie that's not amazing, but it builds a platform for future movies. It's kind of like in the Star Wars franchise, that there tends to be, in a trilogy, there tends to be one movie that's in the middle that kind of sets up the third movie, but not as good as the first movie. It's not uncommon. So I feel that WandaVision was that as a show. Like, was the show amazing by itself?
It did its job.
Probably not, but in terms of the universe, it was really good. If you'd never watched anything Marvel related and someone gave you WandaVision, you wouldn't rate it very highly. Like, it's only good because of what it does for the rest of the universe, where this could be a good show, I guess, on its own.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else that stood out that you want to add?
Were you a bit disappointed that we didn't get the characters from episode 1, or do you feel like we'll get different characters in each episode and the main characters will be Bucky and Sam?
If you're referring to the
old man
and the lady that Bucky goes on a date with, I think the old man will feature again at the end. Bucky will go and tell him what happened with his son.
And Sam's sister.
Yeah, so I think Sam's sister might feature a bit more.
It's actually a nice episode without her.
Yeah, I think she might come into it a bit more, but I think the elderly man will just be a one-off kind of, this is what happened, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I think the female character will either not feature again, or Bucky will go on a second date with her at the end of the show. Like, he might see her and be like, oh, hey, how about we go on another date? And it's something that's not featured. But I don't think she'll be a character that gets taken hostage or saves someone or becomes a part of it. I think she's just... they've kind of thrown her in there to add context to the old Japanese man and then give context to, I don't know, that Bucky might... after making up for all these sins, he might then be in the headspace to start dating again, so he might then go on a second date with her. But
more on his terms.
Yeah. So I think that's all she might be in the show for.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Thanks for coming along, Luke.
Yeah, no worries.
Hope you're enjoying the series so far. Hope you're enjoying the show as well. Let the force be with you. Look forward to the next time we talk about the show. Bye-bye.